Hello, welcome to Evolve with Natu. My name is Natu. In this channel, we talk about a lot of things, but particularly on self development, self improvement, and lifestyle. This is a friendly reminder. If you have not subscribed to this channel, kindly do so and make sure that you're sharing this channel with your family and friends. Today, I have a very special episode. I'm interviewing some of the most important people, I think, in my very humble opinion. They're twins, but they've also done a lot in their respective fields, and that's why I think it's important that I highlight them in this channel. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ambassador John Ulanga. He is the Director of International Trade and Economic Diplomacy for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation for the government of Tanzania.
Thank you.
And we say you save the best for the last. I'd like to introduce Engineer Peter Ulanga. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Tanzania Telecommunication Services Limited, also officially known or informally known as TTCL. Welcome aboard, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
So today we're going to be asking them questions about their professional lives. How did they get here? And what aspects of their personal lives have made them the people that they are? So let's get started. Thank you so much for joining my channel. So I look at you, I look at two very accomplished gentlemen, but I'm pretty sure there's a story behind the people that you are today and the professions that you have opted for. So starting with Peter and then followed by John, if you can kindly share how your upbringing, both professionally and academically, has brought you to the person that you are and the profession that you're in right now.
I think throughout my life, I made a decision to be an engineer. And there's a very old story. I think, how old was I? 7, 8, or 9? 9 or something. Somewhere. A guest came to our house and asked, "What do you want to become?" And I said, "I want to be an engineer." And this guy looked at me, pitied me, and he said, "The good soldier is always one who actually admires to become a general." And I think at that time I thought it was a compliment.
It was an insult, rather.
Yeah, he looked at me saying, "You're so far from that." But anyway, many years have passed, and here I am as an engineer. That has been my lifelong passion and my calling as an engineer. But I also learned somewhere else when I was doing my undergraduate. There was somebody who came was at the time was coming from the institution of electrical and electronic engineers. They said there's more to engineers than engineering, so we could do more than just engineering. So I think I've lived that life of doing slightly more than engineering, but I still consider myself an engineer.
Thank you. Now, you're not an engineer.
I'm not.
How did you become the person that you are today professionally?
So Peter always wanted to be an engineer. I think the part he didn't say was, even in our younger days, he was the one who was always making these electrical circuits, like an engine for a boat. So we're using steam engine, a light bulb, this and this. I actually wanted to be an economist.
Okay.
That was my dream. And of course, it was also driven by people that I looked up to, and especially our late uncle was an economist. And so I also thought, I want to be an economist. But then when it came to choosing the course at the University of Dar es Salaam, the course that had economics was called Bachelor's of Arts in Economics. And for me, I was like, there was a bit of stereotype of having, why should it be called Bachelor of Arts? It has to be called Bachelor of Science in Economics. But that was, so I opted to go for accounting. So I did Bachelor of Commerce in Management, majoring in accounting, or majoring in accounting. But fate took me, so I did a bit of, I qualified as accountant, everything. But then I ended up working for a research institution called Economic and Social Research Foundation in the middle, economists. So much as my background was accounting, I joined the organization as an accountant. After 2 years, they recategorized me into doing more of consultancy coordination. And consultancy coordination in the middle of economists is more around economic type of policy, economic assessment, etc., etc. here I am, years later, I'm responsible for economic diplomacy. So, in a way, of course, I also went to do a postgraduate qualification on development policy and practices, which is more around macroeconomic and a bit of microeconomic analysis, etc. So much as I did not really qualify to be called an economist, I'm an accountant by profession, but still that childhood dream, when I talk about economics or economic performance, some people think I'm an economist. So in a way, I've achieved what I had dreamt of, but in a different way. And I'm still happy with being an accountant, but with an ability to talk not only about accounting, but also talking about broader issues related to economic development, etc.
Interesting. It's very fascinating to hear one of you, both of you knew what you wanted exactly, but it's very different spectrums. Now, dialing back, you both lived a very interesting professional life. You've achieved a lot, in my opinion. If you could walk back and think of the time of your most proud accomplishment in your career, and the obstacles that you had in your career, and how did you overcome them? You can name maybe one obstacle or two, same for achievements. So this time I'll give John a chance to share.
First, we just probably like many others, we lived very humble lives. So even our path, education path, was not a smooth path. In terms of, we went to school not being provided with everything we wanted. Government schools throughout our education career, and sometimes not being taught with the best teachers here and there, of course, for different reasons. But I think we both of us had that urge to succeed. Hard work, the ability to see to it that I want to improve my condition. We want to live a better life in the future. So it means even if you are probably not being provided with the best books, the best maybe this or that, but that ability to really work hard and making sure we unleash the potential we had within us. Now, if you talk about the successes, both of us academically, we were neck to neck, either the first or the second. You see, sometimes the best in the region, second best in the regions, best in the class, or best in the school, you see. And you look back, you realize it was not an easy journey, because by then you're being compared with people who probably had better facilities, better amenities. You see, so, but it was a result of consistent hard work, collaboration. We were competing but collaborating at the same time, you see, because when you are studying together, it means you're sometimes competing for the same top chances, but again collaborating, because of course it's for the good of both of you.
Excellent. Now, do you share the same sentiments, Peter?
Yes, actually, and I would say more or less to do with, he talked about much earlier years, but that goes, we graduated after university, we would sit and discuss about our career paths. Though they're different, but a lot of common things. What can we challenge ourselves to do? What can we do together? And that has been happening always. That as much as I'm not an accountant, nor an economist, but I would say I've learned a lot about those fields from him. And likewise, he's not in ICT, in telecoms, but he has way above average knowledge of those things just because of the conversations and the discussions, etc. And something else which also had an impact in our lives is we also had a lot of conversations with our late dad, whom we used to refer as a chairman. He would chair our meetings and we'll have conversation about politics, about economics, about every part of it. And his background was in HR. So we also learned a lot about that form of leadership. So we would say, how would an engineer be able to be a leader? But we were borrowing it from the well. We were taking it from the well, had a conversation with him, and that explains he started being a head of an institution in 2005. When I started becoming a head of an institution in 2009.
Wow.
Yeah, so much earlier than most would actually believe, but we were there. And when you start heading the institution, people discover, oh, these people have leadership qualities, irrespective of the different personalities we have. In our own way, I do my own style of leadership, he does his own. But we seem to be, I don't know how to say it. We achieve the objectives in the final analysis as leaders in our different respective styles, but we also share notes. That is, if I make a mistake, we'll tell, no, that's not right, and I'll do the same. So over time, we've been overcoming challenges with what I would consider modest successes, because I wouldn't say that we've been spectacular. Modest successes.
I think this is the introvert in you,
No,
just not
it's true.
wanting
That's
to.
true. It's actually very true.
Yeah, okay.
There's nothing remarkable out of what.
I think that's subjective, but
yeah. So over time, with that experience, we became who we became because of the vast challenges and experiences which we've taken along, and one thing which also has an input in our lives. We are lifelong learners. That is, you see this room is full of books, and also if you go to my house, you'll find a lot of books. We'll read, we exchange books sometimes, we exchange ideas from the books, etc. And our conversations are not the simple type of conversation. We'll sit and discuss high-level politics, not a simple sibling talk about what this cousin does. No, we'll do heavy dose of political conversation.
Okay.
It could be a technical conversation, could be economics conversation, could be a crisis in a country, and we'll go and have hours of conversation. And it's sometimes very boring. You wouldn't even want to invite somebody else because they're like, what are you siblings talking about? They can see us sitting on a coffee table discussing for hours, thinking that we have a family feud or something. We bring in conversation about politics or
Interesting.
economics or technical discussion, etc., or development or anything. So that's what has kind of make this conversation be the way it is because of that level of experience. Yeah.
That's very interesting. I like the fact that you started with the genesis of how things started. What were the obstacles? And then he finished off with where you guys are right now. How did you become these people, and how do you keep challenging each other? So for somebody who's watching this channel, and let's say this is a young boy from Mahenge who aspires to be the John or the Peter from tomorrow, who wants to be either an engineer or wants to work in accounting or economics, what skills or what values would you recommend that they have to get where you guys have gotten? The one thing that you both said very clearly, hard work was instilled very on with your parents. You were raised by a teacher, you were raised by an HR professional, but they both instilled the importance of hard work. So other than hard work, what are the skills, what are the traits, what are the values do you think will be important for them to succeed? So I'll start with Peter.
One, lifelong learners. You have to be a lifelong learner. What we studied in our undergrad with the graduate many years ago would not be relevant today, particularly in my case as an engineer. I'm in a field which is evolving very fast. Telecoms, ICTs is evolving very fast. So what I acquired in many years is not relevant today. So being a lifelong learner, in my opinion, it's a trait which I would urge anyone to have. Never ever to stop learning. That's one fundamental trait which I see in every person who I see moving up. You'll see that trait always within the person that is a lifelong learner. And the other one is humility, to accept challenges, but at the same time to have the grit to fight the challenges and be able to overcome them without giving up. So that's what I would probably join.
Lifelong learner and
humility, and I completely agree with him. I will also add 3, and these are things that I've been saying again and again. So for those who have heard me before, I'll sound like broken record. For me, number 1 is integrity.
Okay.
And I think this, I also saw this just to affirm what I have always been saying. I think Warren Buffett was asked or said, you're looking for three things when you're looking for a person or an employee. You're looking for the intelligence, the energy, and the integrity. But if they don't have the last one, don't even bother about the first two. So for me, integrity is important, especially when the higher you go, the more integrity you need to have, because the higher you go, the more access you have to resources, financial, human, information resources. If you don't have integrity, you'll be doomed sooner than later. Number two, almost rephrasing what Peter has said, is intellectual curiosity, the lifelong learning. And I usually like what Bill Gates said about the late Paul Allen, co-founder of Microsoft. I think he said something probably my paraphrase. He said, I've never seen somebody more intellectually curious than Paul Allen. Since childhood, he pretty much wanted to learn everything. So that's lifelong learning. But number three, also kind of related to humility, is what is called emotional intelligence. The ability, people are very smart. There are thousands smart, millions of smart people out there. But emotional intelligence is now about managing relations, managing yourself, knowing yourself, self-awareness, and awareness of others. You see, and especially if you're leading an institution or you're leading anything, you see, even leading a family, leading yourself, being emotional intelligent is quite important attribute that is needed for continuous progress.
Excellent. Now, in the last, I don't want to pinpoint months, but in the spirit of twintuition, the two of you were appointed by the president for your respective roles that you have right now. So walk me through how that day was, and what do you think has been the culmination or the, Peter and I were talking earlier, most of us usually see a bamboo tree, but we don't get to see when it was planted, how deep those roots are. So I think it was very special that the two of you were appointed on the same day. So walk me through that day when you found out you were appointed on the same day, and what do you think it took on top of the skills that you acquired over the years for you to get where you are right now? The appointment. So who would like to take that?
So the appointment was probably the most special moment in our professional career, probably ever. And for me, when I saw that appointment, I was happier for him. For many other reasons I wouldn't say, but also happy. So I actually called him and say, "Hey, Peter, you have been appointed." And of course, then I was also happy for me, but happier for my twin brother, but also very happy and humbled for myself that the president has appreciated, because again, we can't say we are the most intelligent, the most hardworking, the most bright, or whatever language you might use. There are thousands and thousands of people, capable Tanzanians out there. So for the president of the United Republic of Tanzania to make such a decision, you see, and make that announcement or that appointment on the same day, it's an honor that you thank God for. You see, so it was a day for really expressing highest form of gratitude to the president, highest form of gratitude to God. You see, that has given the president the wisdom and courage to make that decision. You see, because it was also received with some, let me say, a bit of confusion. Some people thought there must be a mistake. There can't be two Langas with different names and different positions. There must be one person. So there were all that confusion, you see. So it also brought to the limelight our presence as twins, as professionals, you see. So I think it was historical. We really, you get emotional through by being happy. Too happy, you get emotional, not because you're sad, but because you're very happy. And you say, what have I done to deserve this honor, to deserve this recognition? So I think it was a unique moment in our professional career. We live to treasure that moment, and we really live to always thank the president for that opportunity, for the trust that she has shown us, and she has shown us, and we will do our best to make sure we do not let her down.
Okay.
I think he's covered it all.
He's covered it all?
He has covered it all, as like I say, but he knows that I was so happy for him. When the announcement came, I already told him that is tomorrow, State House.
So who picked whose suits?
No, we don't have issues with suits, but
Okay.
it was the moment of the State House. For me,
Okay.
that was the thing. And it was asking me, so how is it? No, I know how it's set. Leave it to me. We'll go there.
He organized that photo opportunity.
Okay.
It was like, so for me, I didn't even know that what am I expected to do. I knew I'm supposed to show up for the swearing in, but I was saying, John, you need to come with family. And we are family.
So we had to organize our young sister.
Hey.
And when we went into the State House, because I was also suited, I actually thought I was also supposed to be sworn in. So they took me to the swearing in room, and there's a judge here, but I'm not supposed to be part of this. But because the way I was,
because of the way you were dressed.
so they saw, and my name was there, his was not. So they kept him out there. So,
but yes, it was a moment to remember. 25th of September to 2023. And of course, the swearing in ceremony was the day after. These are days we'll always live to remember till
25th of September.
depart. Yeah.
Okay, now let's make this a little bit fun. You guys lead a very busy professional life.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure you have things that you care for personally, so initiatives, passions. So I'll start with Peter. What are the passions or initiatives that you care for? You and I spoke about one early on. If you could kindly share, because most of you probably know the serious side of you, unless for the little people in your cycle who know the things that you're passionate about. For people who are looking up to you and want to know what kind of work-life balance do you have, personally and professionally? What are the things that you care for?
Well,
outside of work?
there's life beyond being an engineer. There's life being beyond being a director general of an institution. So that's I usually say I have many other things I would wish to do. One of the things I didn't tell you is that in my spare time I do coding, computer
Coding.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I develop apps. I do that.
Okay.
Yeah, some of them are out there, some of them are not. But it's interesting. Another thing which, if I get time, I usually do also teach. So it's been a while since I've been in a classroom teaching. The last course I was teaching was a master's degree course in satellite communication, so at the University of Dar es Salaam, but also a bit earlier I did teaching. A bit of mentoring, but there's a reason that mentees run away from me, because I'm very strict.
Okay.
Usually I put the standards very high. It's fine. So that's one, but I also have hobbies which people don't relate. One of them is hiking mountains. He's talking about my other hobby. When was it in 2022, we did put fiber at the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. So to launch the service, we had the minister, the board chair, and some of the board members who were with them going through the summit. So
did they summit all the way up
yes,
to
of
peak?
course they had to.
Oh wow!
I'm their guide. So
Okay, hey, that's very fascinating.
So the most interesting thing was as we were going up, the guides and porters would know me. So the other group was like, they know you up here.
Wow.
And they had a name for me. It's not Peter, it's not just Peter. They had another name. So they're like, so they know you, they can address you by this name. Yes, of course. And that's fascinating. It's good, you connect with nature, etc. The other hobbies I've told you, photography. Whenever I get time, I carry my camera. is not as sophisticated as any of these. It's a smaller version
Mhm.
of a Canon. I'm a Canon person, so I'm happy the Canons are here. But I think you've said something very important: work-life balance. We're supposed to work hard and also get time to reflect and spend time outside our work environment. So yes, there's a serious me in the office, but also there's another person who does many other things which to balance what we do. And like when at the family level, when we meet as family, we hardly spend a lot lot of time to talk about work, except when we have those specific appointments or
The
engagements.
brother
Yeah,
meetings.
most of the time, the kids would not consider me to be any. They actually
Probably they don't even.
no. Actually, they say, "Uncle Peter, you're not serious."
Oh wow! So
Yeah.
they have a different version of you.
Completely.
Okay.
That's how they say you don't seem to be very serious. Do you know why? Because some of the times I do simple magic tricks, things disappear. Do card tricks. So they look at me and say, "This person, no." Not
That's very good that you're actually very agile, because in your work environment you have a different persona, but around family, particularly your nieces and nephews, you have a different persona too. That's very fascinating. What about you, John?
Of course, not as exciting as it does, but yes, I do enjoy mentoring
Okay.
quite a bit. I make time
Mm.
to mentor people. First, I'm a strong believer, as Peter said, there's life beyond what you do professionally, beyond the 8 to 5. And if you curate your time well,
Mhm.
you can make a huge impact, probably as big or even bigger impact compared to what we're doing in our 8 to 5. So I do mentoring quite a bit. I mentor either people who are in businesses, and I've seen people succeeding very much so. From probably you just give them an hour or two a month. That's all. Or sometimes people in their careers, they are struggling to make decisions or to really think through of what they would want to achieve in their career, spending time with them. So I do spend, whether they're young or old, but people who are really in need of mentorship, I do provide that mentorship quite a bit. And I'm very proud. I see a lot of my mentees, some will not want to be mentioned, many will not want to be mentioned. But I see that. But I also spend time, I like doing what we call random acts of kindness. People probably you never meet them again, they'll even never get to know your name. Just do a random act of kindness. And this could just be a word of encouragement of saying, hey, you can, I met someone today. I was in a conference of women entrepreneurs, and someone came to me and said, hey, John, do you remember when we met last time? You challenged me to do, and to be honest, I do not recall. But I knew that this must be me, because then you spare 15 minutes with someone, 5 minutes with someone, to give them a word of encouragement or advice or a challenge that will make them think through what they want to do. It's something that really gives me a lot of pleasure. To be. I also like photography, not his type of photography, but I like photographies to take memories. I usually say every moment is an opportunity to take, to create a memory. So create one. So I take time to really create memories when you meet people, when you engage with people, create memories you could see full of memories, because I think over time our stories are written by the memories we create.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I actually think this interview was also a random act of kindness, so thank you. I'm very inspired with you summiting Mount Kilimanjaro multiple times.
9 times.
9 times. I think that's still multiple times. I hope to climb it one day, but I don't think I'll do it as much that people remember my name. So kudos to you. Now, last but not least, this is a question before we get to our rapid fire questions. You briefly touched about the relationship that we have with your nephews and nieces. You have 2 sons who are also twins. Twins, exactly. You have twins. The 2 of you are also twins. If you can kindly shed light on the relationship that you have with your twins, both of you as your nephews, as your sons, and how do you see John and Peter manifest, their personalities manifest? Because the 2 of you have lived together, now you have young boys, and you're like, I see more of Peter, I see more of John, and maybe sometimes it's interchangeable because human beings evolve. So what kind of relationship do you have? Which aspects of yourselves do you see in this young man?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. Is that in a normal life setting, I'm considered to be more serious than him. But in relation to the twins, they have more leeway with me than with their dad.
Okay.
So if they want a compromise, they'll come to me to say, "Please, can you make this work with them?" So it's a very interesting situation. That is, if you see them with me, you'll actually see them think that they're my kids than with him. If they were here, they would be around me, not him.
So he's the bad cop. You're the good cop.
Yeah, I'm the good cop, as far as I'm concerned. Because
Okay.
I don't look at their homework, so they have reasons to be happy.
I think if you looked at their homeworks, maybe that title might have changed.
Yeah. So for me, I just come with the goodies, the tricks, etc. That's fine. So I don't look at their homeworks, and then my life is easy. So he has to do the heavy lifting. I don't have. In terms of characters, yes, you can see how they manifest. There's also the introvert in the extreme, and there's the extrovert. So you can see the differences and how we relate with them. You can see some similarities. And I can say that there are those similarities somehow. The people say this one is more like you than this one. Etc. So that's it. But it lives with them most.
So I get to hear the bad cop. What do you have to say?
I think first the most important or the most unique point is the fact that we, the four of us, share a birthday.
Oh,
yes.
That's okay.
Strange.
When is your birthday, if you don't mind me asking?
9th of April.
Well, belated birthday wishes.
You. So
okay.
we share. Which now has forced us. We have to find a way of celebrating because it's their birthday. So one, but number two, yes, I agree. He's the uncle. He's the nice uncle. He gives them access to the phone to play everything, etc., etc. Because he's only here once,
Just like many of us who are aunts and uncles.
But yes, of course, as a parent, you first they're my best friends. To be honest with you, even with that seriousness that is needed. If I'm late, they'll call me. Then, you're late. What time are you coming back? Things. If I'm traveling, when are you coming back? Or they'll call you. So we are stuck on the homework. Can you please help us on this? You have to meet over the phone wherever you are in the world. You see. So I have intentionally said whenever I can make time, I am being intentional to make time for the kids or make time for family because amidst everything else, it's the family that matters. It's what, when as a father, you go home and the kids run to you, jump, hug you, and ask you, how was your day at work? They know I do a lot of meetings. So how were your meetings today? That makes you feel like, wow. You see, they're interested, as opposed to some fathers, when you get back home,
everybody's running. People, the father's touching the TV. Is it hot? Did everybody watch the TV today?
You see, so yes, of course, you also have to be a disciplinarian when it comes to, of course, for young kids, you have to create discipline, but we are doing it in a way that still does not reduce or create any distance, or does not reduce the bond that we have. So I think kids are the gift that the best gifts you can be given. So spending as much time as possible with them is something that everyone would have to do or is good to do. And we are trying our best. I'm trying my best.
That's good. Is there an activity that the four of you enjoy celebrating or enjoy doing other than obviously celebrating your birthdays?
We have a brunch date.
Okay.
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday, the four of you?
See, even if it's not there, the three of us, they will always be sure. And if I'm traveling, he will always have to be there. You see, for a brunch date from around 11 to 1 every Sunday.
So do they also order the same thing? So rumor has it, the two of you tend to order the same things. Do the twins also order the same things too of the menu?
Yeah, they know what they want.
Okay. Interesting.
They can even order for us now. Even if you're not there, they know, okay, Uncle Peter wants this, Dad wants this.
Creatures of habit.
Yeah.
Now, this interview is about to end, but before it ends, I have 3 rapid questions, 5 questions. So the first question is, if you had to trade each other's professional lives, which role would you like to take of Peter's professional life, and which role of John's professional life would you like to take?
You know, it's a very difficult question.
Yes.
Because we have really set ourselves aside. That is, I like what I do.
Mhm.
I love what I do.
So really, there's nothing. I'm looking at what can I do?
Economic diplomacy.
Economic diplomacy. No,
There's a TTCL.
You can do TTCL. You seem like you
I
have.
struggle
Uh-huh.
because I have not even 1% of the technical knowledge and prowess that he has, you say.
Okay.
But we do, as I say, we do engage in a lot of those conversations of what is happening in TTCL, what is happening in areas of economic diplomacy. And I'm like, this is interesting. Sometimes I say, if you give me this for an A, this is what I'm going to do.
Easily said than done.
No, it's very interesting. It's extremely interesting. How the different careers we took different paths, but in a way, we are happy with that. So I'm happy with what he does, and I'm happy with what I do, and
I'm happy with what he does.
Yeah. So as interesting as it is, his career is in places where, as an introvert, I'm not as
You're not very comfortable being in those rooms. So
I see him doing emceeing with the president. I see him doing a lot of conferences. For me, I'd say if I do this for a week,
You'll
all
be
my
exhausted.
energy would disappear. So
I'm trying to push him.
Yes.
No idea. But there's a component which I can take his role, which is when he does strategy. I like doing strategy, so that's something I could take, but not in the visible part, but the invisible part of strategy, where you analyze the situation and see what happens, etc. And these are why I say about this, because these are some of the things we discuss. That is, at a strategic level, what is happening here, what can be done differently. I would more than happy contribute into that conversation, because that's something which is of interest to me too. Yeah.
Okay. What about you?
No, I would, what he does now in the telco sector, he's doing transformation. And so sometimes I say, I wish I could do that, but I would lack this technical knowledge. But he'll be there.
You know he's always going to be there.
Probably, but the difference between him and I is I'll brag a lot more than you.
That's the extrovert in you.
But maybe I'll communicate a lot on what we are achieving.
Yeah. He's always telling me that it's like, you've done like 50 things. Why people do not know about these huge transformational changes, which have an impact across the sector, across everywhere. So people would say, okay, why does this thing happen? But I was there when it happened, and maybe I did.
You're part of the inception and the...
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
So like now in TTCL, we're transforming the corporation, and where it is now is on an upward trajectory, and probably in the next 1 or 2 years is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Happy to hear that. So you're both very avid readers. From what I gathered, I look at the library there. He came with a book. If you had to pick a book that you read that transformed your life, what book will that be and why?
It's a big one. I will pick a childhood book.
The childhood book, okay.
Not really childhood. This is an African writers series. Is It Possible?
Is It Possible? Okay.
It's a story of a Maasai boy called Lerionka. I think it's probably there.
Okay.
No, I think it's in our late father's library, which basically is a story of a Maasai boy who is trying to keep tradition on one side, but also go to school on the other side. But for me, it's not only about that balance between tradition
Mhm.
and modern education.
Mhm.
But it's about the struggles we, especially in Africa,
Mhm.
have to go through to improve our livelihood, educate us. I mean,
Mhm.
educate ourselves. You
Mhm.
see, and I think for me, okay, maybe you can. It's the story really remained in my mind.
Mhm.
So every time from that childhood, you're struggling and struggling, going to school. Not that we were in trouble, but it was not like all roses. You see, so you're working hard, saying that this is like the story of Lerionka. Everything that he had to go through to be the educated Maasai boy that he finally was.
That's very fascinating. I wouldn't have it. I don't even think I remember reading that book. What about you, Peter? What book did
I'm
you?
trying to think about which books, because I think I've several books which have had tremendous influence in my thinking and how I take life for many years. And one thing which happened early in our lives, our late dad had a big library. So between when we finished Form 4 to Form 5, there was a gap there. So I was reading those books, either one or two at the same time. So I finished maybe 200 books from that library. One thing which came out is that based on the reading habits, I would say books influence me differently. There's a book which is called The Powerful Engagement, which says the energy, not the time, which you need to balance. It tells you about how to apportion your energy in doing as much things as you can. There's several other books like Blue Ocean Strategy, which tells you about how to make your competition anywhere irrelevant by tuning yourself to do things differently. There's a book on speed reading by Tony Buzan. It teaches you how to read very fast. So I learned and say, well, this was good because I could read more. There's a book which talks about the power of physical intelligence. That is how much being physically fit also influences your brain power. It helps to be fit, to be clever. So, and few other books which I would say which I've been reading, and to pick one depending on the context. Like as of recent, I was remembering the Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize winner who died a week ago.
Is that the one who wrote the emotional intelligence book?
No, it was the one who wrote the Thinking
Think
Fast,
Fast and Slow.
Fast and Slow. It was a very hard read, but it talks about all the types of biases we are exposed to. And the whole story was, this is a psychologist who was looking at how irrational humans are, but he decided to publish his seminal work in an economics paper. He ended up getting a Nobel Prize in economics while he's a psychologist. And normally he would not have been an economics, a Nobel Prize winner for economics, because he wasn't an economist, but he was looking at behavioral psychology. That is why even the most intelligent people behave in some irrational ways. So when reading the book, it tells you about how we make decisions, and it makes you understand why we make the types of decisions we make. But I also say there's another book which I read, which was very interesting. I couldn't figure the book until at the end of the book. There's an author, Brazilian author called Paulo Coelho. He wrote a book, Alchemist.
It's one of my favorite books.
Yes, you read till the end and you figure out what is the whole story about.
Yeah.
But it tells you about finding yourself and where you should see things the way they are instead of the way you think they are. So there's several books which I would say they have different types of influences on the person I am, and in different ways. So be it about personal development, be it about the finance, be it about anything. I usually say, if I pick a subject, if it's psychology, I'll read at least 10 to 15 books on the subject to get the depth. I wouldn't just read one book. If it's about productivity, I'll read like 15, 20 books about productivity to get the depth of the topic. If it's about physical performance in terms of exercise, etc., I also have a set of books. So that's reading, and for me, it has been my way of masterminding my knowledge. That is, it's like having the authors are my friends who are talk to me about what they have done very well. So
I think it's very fascinating that you're an engineer and you're a reader. I do not know a lot of engineers who like reading. I have to say that. Now, in the interest of time, I know you have to go, but before you go, I have one last question. Talking to you, I see both of you being very transformative leaders, I think. And now, in your respective fields, what kind of transformation do you hope to achieve in the current roles that you're in? Simply put, I know you probably have your own KPIs with the president, but in general terms, what kind of transformation do you want to see in your respective fields?
Somewhere along what I've been doing in my professional career, I was involved in some standardization work, which requires you to look a bit into the future, have the standards for different types of equipment, ICT, etc. So I got to see the direction where our ICT sector is taking in the next 5 to 10 years. So we saw the advent of the fourth industrial revolution much, much earlier. So if there's one transformation I want to see is that Africa and Tanzania in particular have missed the first, the second, the third industrial revolutions. If there's one transformation, if we can catch the fourth industrial revolution, we're best placed to become in the next 50 years, I won't be alive, to see Tanzania where it should be, in the size of where China is today or Japan or whatever, because we have all the requisites. The only thing is that we need to take advantage of what's happening across the world today. We shouldn't be left out. So if there's one transformation, if you see what we do in TTCL by putting as much infrastructure fiber, connecting as many people as we can, that making the service cheap, making it available, is to ensure that we catch this wave of the fourth industrial revolution. We miss it, maybe there won't be another one for us to catch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. What about you, John?
So I've been given a very interesting responsibility to lead economic diplomacy implementation in the country. Much as we've been talking about economic diplomacy, for the first time in the last 3 years, there has been a department responsible for economic diplomacy. And the role that I've been given now in the mandates, the matching orders I was given by the president, was really to maximize collaboration between private sector, government, and especially our missions abroad for the maximum benefit of the country, economic benefit of the country. What does it mean in practical terms? Because when I talk about economic diplomacy, is the utilization of diplomatic tentacles or diplomatic representation or diplomatic presence across the world to utilize that for economic benefit. When we talk about economic benefit and the transformation that we want to achieve over the next 3 to 4, 5 years is maximize investment promotion. So we would want to see, for example, over the next 3 years, we want to see the FDI, the foreign direct investment, coming to Tanzania to double. And we want to see a huge contribution of our diplomatic presence in the countries across the world to really attract that investment. We want to see doubling of exports.
Export development.
Currently, I think we are exporting to a tune of about $12 billion a year. We think in the next 3 to 5 years, we can achieve over $20 billion a year. But that requires a huge collaboration between our ambassadors, high commissioners out there, the government ministries, and the private sector in the country, because export is actually unlike private sector. We want to see the contribution of tourism. So that transformation to see really leapfrogging in the areas of investments, in the areas of trade, export trade, whether it's goods or services, and especially, for example, in the area of tourism. We think we can actually double the contribution of tourism into the country. Now, that is easier said than done. So it's really a transformative type of intervention that requires to be put in place to really ensure we create a mechanism, and the role that I've been given is to really create a mechanism for better coordination for better resourcing, for better information sharing, you see, and for better strategic planning together between our diplomatic presence, between our diplomats out there and the ministries, and of course private sector, be they manufacturers, producers in general, and especially exporters. So it's a heavy task, but it can be achieved. And the reason I was given that responsibility is to put as much effort as possible, our brains, our hearts and minds into it, to really see our country leapfrogs over the next 3 to 5 years.
Thank you. I think I'd probably just share a little bit. The FDI and the export development touch me a little bit because my other world, I deal with export development, and hearing that Tanzania is looking to pursue that, maybe free trade agreements with other countries and stuff. And also you, Peter, I've lived through the generations of seeing how TTCL has evolved over the years and just seeing what is it that you're looking to achieve for this sector, for this industry, and Tanzania as a whole. Gentlemen, I think this has been a wonderful interview. Thank you so much for granting me this interview. I usually just used to see you on newspapers, on the internet, and here I am today. I've been granted an opportunity to learn about you, and I think the rest of the world will appreciate to know the two gentlemen, brilliant gentlemen, behind the magic that happens in this country, amongst many others. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Also a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in with Evolve with Natu. Until next time, have a great day. Bye-bye.